Let me show you some of the information here. When CNN asks, does Bernie have a lane? Does Bernie have a lane? I want to show you the exit polls. From the 2018 midterm. Gun policy, 11%. Economy, 21%. Immigration, 23%. Look at the biggest source of care and interest. What do people care most about? In at least the voters who voted, what do they care the most about? That would be health care. Health care. Well, who do voters want to vote for? Do they want to vote for, Sherrod Brown, who's Medicare buy-in and, Medicare access or Medicare extra or whatever the hell the incrementalists are proposing these days? Do you think the people that 41% of which, and by the way, it's higher than 41%, the majority of non-voters, part of why they're not voting is because they know nobody's serious about healthcare. But do you really think that it's going to be attractive to the voters who are literally, some of them dying for healthcare? For, Julian Castro, who says Medicare for all, like very quietly, but has no actual plan for that? Or Kamala Harris, who says Medicare for all at a CNN town hall, and then literally less than 24 hours later is, I'm open to other things too, and we got to be pragmatic, so I'm open to a public option. I'm open to Medicare extra. We got to be pragmatic. Do you really think that, the Amy Klobuchars of the world who just said last night, Medicare for all is definitely long-term what we want. But, I just want to get something done now. Oh, what a terrible answer that was. Or, frankly, I got to keep it real. Elizabeth Warren is for Medicare for all, but she's not really talking about it on the campaign trail much. When asked about it in a recent interview, she didn't really strongly push it. There's only one candidate. Tulsi Gabbard is for Medicare for all, to her credit. There's only one candidate he's not like taking a breath or looking the other way when he says it. He is strongly, fiercely, and in a non-negotiable way saying we need Medicare for all in this country. He has proposed Medicare for all legislation that had, I believe, 18 co-sponsors, including all of these, as I call them, Johnny-come-lately progressives. Because, let me tell you something. Kirsten Gillibrand, Johnny-come-lately progressive. Cory Booker, Johnny-come-lately progressive. Julian Castro, Johnny-come-lately progressive. Kamala Harris, Johnny-come-lately progressive. And let's not allow them to determine or to manufacture what a progressive is. Hillary Clinton, I'm a progressive who gets things done. Yeah, you get a lot of wars done. You get a lot of warmongering done. You get a lot of incrementalism done. You get a lot of favorable legislation for banks done. And there's a reason that Kamala Harris in 2 years has gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars from Wall Street as a senator. There's a reason Kamala Harris has gotten a hell of a lot of money from Wall Street already. There's a reason she got $127,000 from individuals that work for Time Warner. Time Warner was the parent company of CNN. Follow the money, Lebowski. It's about the money, Lebowski. So none of these people are for what the voters are for. And it's not about whether they're black. It's not about whether they're a woman. It's not about how old they are. It's about the polls. 70% of American citizens polled want Medicare for all. Not Medicare extra, not Medicare buy-in, not Medicare access, not Medicare, marshmallow or whatever's the next thing the incrementalists come up with. Medicare for all. Okay? So, what's the pragmatic thing to do? And I spoke with Jimmy Dore about this a while ago. What's the pragmatic solution? Is the pragmatic solution to look at a poll, look at overwhelming support, and go the other way? Or is the pragmatic solution be like, the majority of people want X. If I give them X, I'll probably be elected. That seems pretty pragmatic, doesn't it? Usually when you give the majority what they want, they like it and they support you. But we don't live in a country where the politicians represent you or I. We live in a country where the politicians take legal bribes and represent the banks, the fossil fuel companies, the real estate developers, pharmaceutical companies, real estate developers, the list goes on and on and on. So, Bernie Sanders, I'm telling you, Bernie Sanders, there would be no way in hell that Medicare for All would be polling at 50%, if not for Bernie Sanders. Specifically, Medicare for All is polling among Republicans at 52%. So that's one number I wanted to show you. Then I heard CNN today say, well, Bernie Sanders, he has a big, big problem with black voters, because this has been their narrative. He has a big, big problem with black voters. They never mention, oh, he won millennial black voters over Hillary Clinton by a pretty nice margin. But no, black voters in total, he has a problem with. Well, according to a September Gallup poll, he has a 64% favorability rating among non-whites, which, you know, black, brown, indigenous. Is that a big problem, folks? Is 64% favorability a huge problem with black voters? I'm not saying he doesn't have to do better. I'm not saying he doesn't have to make inroads. I think he has to campaign heavily in the South, maybe more so than anywhere else. But he has a 64% favorability rating among non-white voters. You don't hear this anywhere else. And by the way, can you read numbers? Because that's better than white voters. The bottom line is this. Look at those numbers. He's got a 54% among independent voters. Last time I checked, independent voters decide presidential elections. That's how you get elected. It's not just getting out your base. Who can attract independent voters? And by the way, most independent voters, they lean to the left. 78% among the Democratic Party. Not bad. 50% among whites. Pretty good. 64% among non-whites. Pretty good. But as great as the non-white numbers are, an equally important number in this poll, 55 and older. He's at 45%. This was in September, so it might be even more than that now. That is why he lost the 2016 campaign, on top of a lot of rigging, which I'm going to get to in a minute. He lost because of older Americans, predominantly African-American older people, but also white older people. This isn't an ageist thing, because obviously there's a lot of older Bernie Sanders voters. So I'm not putting a blanket over all older voters. However, the data is the data. Hillary Clinton's predominant voting base was older Americans. So the fact that he's even close to 50% among 55 and older is a positive thing. He'll have to do more. He will have to get to 49, 50% at that number. He will also have to get a little bit better among 35 to 54. But I think he could do it. I really do. So that's another important poll that you will not see on CNN. Another important poll. Well, first of all, before I show this poll, I want to show you what Kamala Harris had to say last night about Medicare for all.
Senator Harris, one of the most popular Democrats in America right now is the guy who won here in 2016, Bernie Sanders, describes himself as a Democratic socialist. To compete in New Hampshire, do you have to, in the Democratic primary, do you have to move more toward the Democratic socialist part of the party?
Well, the people of New Hampshire will tell me what's required to compete in New Hampshire, but I will tell you I am not a Democratic socialist. I believe that what voters do want is they want to know that whoever is going to lead understands that in America today, not everyone has an equal opportunity to and access to a path to success, and that has been building up over decades, and we've got to correct course. When we have an America where almost half of American families cannot afford a $400 emergency, we know that we've got to do some course correction. When we have in America where 99% of the counties in the United States of America, if you're a minimum wage worker working full-time, you can't afford market rate for a one-bedroom apartment, we need to course correct. And those are my commitments in terms of being able to be in a position where, one, I see it, but also I intend to do something.
What's so interesting about Kamala Harris, I am not a Democratic socialist. And you have Donald Trump playing on this, socialist boogeyman. America will never, ever be a socialist country. And I actually thought I queued this up for you to make a point. I don't normally play Young Turks clips, but I want to play this clip. from the 2016 campaign to show you what I think Donald Trump is really going to tap into. And frankly, I think the DNC, if you think the DNC is not going to try to rig this primary, or they already have rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders, you got another thing coming. And we're going to get to the DNC in a few minutes. And we're going to get to the rigging in 2016, and we're going to get to how to stop it in 2020. But I want to play you this clip so you have a kind of an idea of what not only Donald Trump's going to do, but what, frankly, the Democratic elites are going to do to try and paint Bernie Sanders as the Antichrist. Here we go.
Right? Trump.
I think Trump, he's honest. We don't need a Barack in office no more because he's a liar. He can't be direct. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He will believe in taking away all our freedom. He'll control the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we live. Trump.
How's Bernie Sanders going to control all that?
You know, he'll find a way. Bernie Sanders, he believes in socialism. If everybody knows correct history, they would know that Hitler was also a socialist, or he was a different type of socialist.
He was a fascist.
Fascist, yeah, socialism, fascism.
Very different.
It is. It runs in the same category, but it's different.
I'm more with Trump because of that, because he's being bullied by the government.
Oh, you know, Bernie Sanders, he's kind of like Hitler, you know? Hitler was a socialist. I mean, listen. I don't want to make this too much about Trump, but obviously, you got some ignorant people about what socialism is and is not. But frankly, this is a tactic that the Democratic Party are using too. You know, they think that the country is so against socialism. They think that the country, if they really cater and make socialism the boogeyman and make Bernie, kind of akin to Fidel Castro, or now Maduro, you're starting to hear Bernie is like Maduro, and that, look at Venezuela, socialism, blah, 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 blah. They think that they could effectively kill Bernie Sanders' campaign. Only minor problem with that, Americans, they kind of like socialism. This is recent poll from Gallup. 2010, it was an even split between capitalism and socialism. You had 53% of Americans favored capitalism, 53% socialism. 2012, about the same, 55% capitalism, 53% socialism. 2016, what happened in 2016? Was this kind of disheveled old guy running for president who was a socialist? It goes up by 5 points. 53 to 58% agree with socialism. Sorry for the noise. Of course, as I'm live, they're doing drilling and construction in my apartment. I apologize. Apartment above me. 58% want socialism in 2016. Now in 2018, look at how far favorability ratings for capitalism has fallen. Capitalism has fallen by 9 percentage points in 2 years. What changed after 2016 was, oh my God, Hillary Clinton, she ran that amazing socialist campaign and now we're all love socialism and hate capitalism? Is it, oh, Donald Trump, he ran this amazing anti-capitalism campaign and that pro-socialism campaign? It must be Hillary and Donald Trump that made people hate capitalism and love socialism. Bernie Sanders happened. The Medicare for All movement happened. Fight for 15 has been happening. Free public college has been happening. Black Lives Matter has been happening. No DAPL has been happening. And this notion that socialism is authoritarian. Well, in Venezuela, in 2012, or I don't know when he was elected, Maduro was elected, there were international groups, including the Carter Center, Jimmy Carter's foundation, that did an election integrity study. And they found that Nicolas Maduro was elected in a free and fair election. Okay? Nicolas Maduro, he's not perfect by any means. But Nicolas Maduro, this authoritarian, The election in Venezuela was supposed to be in 2019, this year. But at the behest of the opposition party, who is extreme right-wing fascists, Juan Guaido, who Nancy Pelosi has been clapping for, who Trump says, oh, the now democratically elected leader of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. No. Nicolas Maduro, the authoritarian, moved up the election from 2019 to 2018. It was a year earlier than it was supposed to be. You don't hear that on CNN. So do you think Donald Trump would be like, oh, there's a lot of people that want the election sooner? Let's move it up to 2019. I mean, it's ridiculous, this thing about socialism and authoritarianism. It doesn't exist.